Thank you, Rabbi Bauman, for always guiding us throughout the multiple years here at Torah Semis. You really help our school thrive and inspire us all.
Thank you, Mrs. Rubin, for helping out in the office and for being the best mother.
Thank you, Mrs. Lubin, for always helping me with visualizing and verbalizing.
Thank you, Mrs. Krieger, for always helping me when I come to the office for anything or if I'm not feeling well.
Thank you to Mrs. Sushinsky for making math fun. We missed you a lot.
Thank you to our security guards for keeping us safe and making sure we cross the street safely.
Thank you, Mrs. Khan, for making learning so much fun with all your songs for Chumash.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosenberg, for teaching us Chumash, Kriya, Shorashim, and lots more.
Thank you, Mrs. Schwartz, for giving me a really fun first grade year. Every day we did a new fun activity, especially on Fridays when we traded in our Pom-Poms Fry prize.
Thank you, Mrs. Fry. Your smile and good energy made our first grade classroom magical. This year, when I heard that I would be doing pizza for your class, I was so excited. Thank you again for being the best teacher.
Thank you, Mrs. Goldberg, for always having a smile on your face and having encouraging words.
Thank you, Mrs. Freelock, for everything. Ice packs, Band-Aids, copies. What would we do without you? And I almost forgot. We all love your accent.
Thank you, Mrs. Jamal, my mom, and the financial office for helping our yeshiva flourish and grow. Thank you for being an amazing mom.
Thank you, Mordechai, for doing such fun art activities with us.
Thank you, Mrs. Marlowe, for helping me and many others face our challenges and get through.
Thank you, Ms. Berkman, for being an amazing davening teacher. I love walking into the classroom and seeing you greet everyone with a smile on your face. We love you, Ms. Berkman.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosenbaum, for always organizing the best teams and inviting us to your home.
Thank you, Mrs. Sachs, for making my second grade the best. I love when you tell us about manatees, and I enjoy that every day someone would pick a book and we would read that book. My favorite book was The Big Red Lollipop. I love when you always tell us that we should try our best and you'd push us to be better.
Thank you, Mrs. Jager, for being the best teacher in the world. You made all the classes fun every day. We had a blast.
Thank you, Mrs. Hazard, for organizing the Yudzus Torah program for the school and being such an amazing teacher.
Thank you, Mrs. Koppel, for always helping me with anything I needed and always being there for me when I had any drama.
Thank you, Ms. Shanes, for watching us during lunch and giving us prizes.
Thank you, Mrs. Mizrahi, for packing all the lunches for all girls.
Thank you, Mrs. Bergita, for taking care of dismissal, making sure each kid gets home safely each and every day.
Thank you, Mrs. Selmar, for watching us during PE and for being such a fun coach.
Thank you, Ms. Yael Palti, for always cheering me up and for always being so kind and sensitive and the best teacher ever.
Thank you, Maria Yofi, for always making the best CMs and for being the best third grade teacher ever.
Thank you, Mrs. Osina, for the best third grade year. I loved how you always believed in us and told us to do our best and push our limits. My two favorite things were you being my teacher and the Rainforest Expo. I still remember my line.
Thank you, Mrs. Palgon, for doing the Rainforest Project with us. It was really fun and exciting.
Thank you, Mrs. Sarah, for all your work with planning parties and helping out with everything. For example, the Malava Maka, Cantina, Pizza, and working in the office. You helped us so much all these years, and we really appreciate all you do. You worked so hard just to give us a fun time. We really enjoy it. Thank you so much for all of your effort.
Thank you to Ms. Bernstein for watching us and taking care of us at lunch.
Thank you to Ms. Levy for watching our class when our teacher went out of the classroom, and especially for taking us to the playground to daven.
Thank you, Mrs. Goldenberg, for being kind, compassionate, and funny when you're substituting for us. Thank you for testing me and being so fun. Thank you so much, Mrs. Goldenberg.
I would like to thank Mrs. Freed for doing so many activities with us and helping me learn and achieve my goals.
Thank you, Mrs. Khan, for being such a great teacher. Everything you taught me stayed with me.
Thank you, Ms. Elgod, for being a great teacher and doing many amazing activities with us.
Thank you so much, Mrs. J, for teaching me so many things, big and small. Thank you, Mrs. Ben-Hur, for a fun Friday. It made school so much more fun, and I looked forward to it every week. Thank you, Mrs. Deach, for being a fantastic principal. Even though you have a lot of things to take care of, you always make time to help us with whatever we need.
Thank you, Mrs. Berman, for running the whole ACE program so well.
Thank you to Mrs. Bauman for your help with running our school, advising the teachers according to what they need to teach, giving advice to us, and listening to our problems, plus handling paperwork and phone calls. Thank you for taking care of all that so beautifully with grace and a smile.
I would like to thank Mrs. Shaffrin for being an amazing teacher and for choosing me to go to the robotics competition. Thank you for being such a good teacher.
Thank you, Miss Freed, for helping make lunch go smoothly in the tent.
Thank you, Mrs. Rizal, for getting us to and from school safely.
Thank you, Miss Palgon, for always doing such fun activities and for teaching our 5th grade class in such an amazing way.
Thank you, Ms. Bobshever, for helping us achieve our goals. With you preparing us for middle school, and if we can do hard things, we are ready to continue on. Thanks to you, we have accomplished so much more than we could have imagined.
Thank you, Mrs. Waknin, for the best year ever. Thank you for teaching me a lot of Chumash, Rashis, and a lot of life lessons. I love how Mrs. Waknin teaches us in a fun and interesting way.
Thank you, Miss Palti, for teaching me and helping me when I don't understand something or when I'm feeling down. Thank you for doing fun math activities and giving us treats.
Thank you to Mrs. Rizal for being the funnest 4th grade math teacher. I always loved the prizes, charts, and best of all, the cupcake parties.
Thank you, Mrs. Minnick, for helping me with math.
Thank you, Mrs. Fox, for doing PE and dismissal. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Mrs. Dennis, for teaching me all these incredible math tricks that made me so much better in math.
Thank you, Rabbi Wiener, for making sure that everything gets done, at home and at school, and for being the best father ever.
Thank you to Mr. Akrish and the maintenance crew for keeping our school clean and for fixing whatever is needed.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis, for taking care of us when we come to the office sick or for photocopies and everything else that we need.
Thank you to all teachers and staff.
That make Taurus MS.
Very special place it is.
We really appreciate all you did for us.